everybody, welcome back. We are here ready with some nice cups of hot drinks. I am Melissa, and with me is my wonderful host with most, who likes to boast. I'm not quite sure what else rhymes. James. And as you may know, it is the MelanJam cast.
Episode 24.
Ta-da! What have we been up to since we last spoke to our wonderful audience of people?
We cooked food.
ate food.
We worked out.
We did?
And I received another review copy, but it's an embargo, so I can't talk. I can never talk about anything. It's annoying. I look forward to when I can talk about stuff, because there's things I would like to talk about, but I have to wait.
Shh. Down low.
Makes it sound like I'm important. I'm really not. It's just...
So I today have done more baking. One was slightly more successful than the other. I tried to make some American chocolate chip muffins.
Yes, muffins. What makes them American?
I don't know, that's what the recipe is called,
That's
American. But I don't know if I think I might have put too much in the case, which is why it kind of all exploded everywhere.
No, muffins aren't the best.
Yeah, they're meant to like really rise. It's not my usual muffin recipe, so I was a bit like, but it was alright. Not my best, I don't think. Yeah. And I also made some layered banana thing. It's got oats, whole wheat, and sugar in it, basically, and some butter. I think it's quite nice. I think it's quite tasty. And it didn't take me that long to make, actually, in the long scheme of things. I think I need to double the recipe, though, because there's not really, I only made like 6, and apparently it's meant to make 12. I did not make 12. Made 6. So I might do a bit much more in it to, because they make quite nice little like breakfast bars, I think. If I can fill that tray, you can make like little breakfast bars.
That's quite clever idea.
Quite nice. Should be tasty on the go, and I can like wrap them in a little bit of bacon, and you can have them on the go. Very nice. So we'll try that again. And then I did some cleaning, you've done some playing.
I'm writing.
And some writing. And some exercising. So
Yeah,
that's been
working out.
Been today.
Pump the iron. We watched that delightful Simpsons episode where there was that Treehouse of Horror one where Snake tries to kill Bart.
Oh yeah, through the hair.
The possessed hair, which I remembered when I was younger. So it brought out nostalgic memories for me. And that weird Jerry Springer episode with Kodos and Kang in it.
That's all the same Treehouse one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all the same episode. But
compilation.
I remember that being quite... Because it was available, that Treehouse of Horror was available on a VHS tape of The Simpsons called Too Hot for TV when I was younger. I remember watching that quite a lot. Because it was all exciting because the episode hadn't been released in the UK. And it's like... Ooh, we're just like the Americans who can now watch the up-to-date Simpsons episodes. We're like 4 years behind usually.
I never really noticed that sort of stuff when I was watching Simpsons. I don't think I wasn't massively. I used to watch it when it was on, but
when it came to the UK, it started on BBC, which was rather amusing, and they didn't start it in order. They started it kind of like random episodes because the first episode they showed on BBC, because I was there for the premiere, obviously day one, absolutely.
Oh.
And it was one of those. It was that one where I can't remember off the top of my head. It was the one where Doctor, not the really really old Doctor, and he's not old Doctor, but the psychiatrist Doctor. Beard. What was his name?
Because he came back in it.
Marvin Monroe.
Yeah.
Dr. Marvin Monroe.
Because they're the one when they put them in the electrical chairs.
Yeah, that one. That was the first episode they showed on BBC, because the actual first episode is the Christmas one.
Yeah, Santa's Little Helper.
Yeah, and but yeah, so they kind of showed it in a weird order. But not just that, I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty certain they showed like some episodes from season 2 as well, and they like bounced back between 1 and 2 in this really weird fashion. It's almost as if they like threw a few episodes out and go, there you go.
So see what's stuck.
Yeah.
I don't think I didn't really watch them until they came on Channel 4.
That's a shame, because BBC was much better because they had no adverts.
Yeah.
It was all
I mean, I might have done. I don't really remember, but
I didn't like it when I went to Channel 4, so they threw the adverts.
I think I only really watched it on Channel 4. I don't really remember it before that. Oh, excuse me. But we are here today to talk about... Can you do a big impression?
Of?
What are we talking about today?
Well, yeah, but you want me to do a big impression as what we could do.
Your choice of any. You could do an animal, a person.
I'm not very good at the impressions from Josh. Like just life force, by the way.
I think mine's better.
We've got a new deal. You think you're so good. Go on.
Well, like life
That's just cancer spirit.
will find a way.
Today we both go for the
I like
gold blue.
then he's like now I'm talking to myself in a car. Who would think?
My thing is that's what he says. That's Caelan's theory.
Yeah.
Not whatever theory it was.
And who would think that Dr. Grant would jump out of a moving vehicle, and that you would also jump out of a moving vehicle? Now I'm talking to myself.
No, I'm talking to myself. So of course, yeah, we thought since we wanted to talk about the Jurassic series, I guess, for quite a while since we started these podcasts, but just something else has just popped into our heads. But before we dedicate an episode to blabbing about the current 5 movies that are available, and maybe if we have time, we can speculate what we'd like to see from the 5th one. So best place to start, of course, is right at the
6th one, isn't it?
It is the 6th one. You're right. Yes, sorry. Yeah, you're correct.
Because there's that last one was 5.
It's obviously it's so memorable. I just
it was better on the second watch. Now, are we going to flip flop or are we going to go in order?
No, we're going in order. You got to go in order. It's always got to be chronological order as it was released. So we're going to go all the way back to 1993 for the
everyone
release.
close their eyes and cast your mind back to 1993.
I had a Jurassic Park lunchbox.
Oh.
I was very proud of that. That was like my favourite thing ever when I was younger, and I'm pretty certain at some point I broke it and I was devastated because that was it was the black one with just the Jurassic Park logo on it, and I was just like in little boy heaven, I guess, at that time. It's the coolest because I was all about dinosaurs. I still kind of am in a way. I still get the nostalgia GBs about dinosaurs.
You do.
But I was taken. I guess that really originated. It did come before Jurassic Park because I think my grandfather took me to the Natural History Museum, and I completely ate that up with the dinosaur skeletons. Like, yeah, it's funny because we'll get to Jurassic World where they say, oh, a dinosaur's not enough anymore. But for a kid, for me, when I was probably about 5 or maybe 4 or something. But for me, bones were fine. Bones were more than enough. You've been to the Natural History Museum in London, haven't you?
Yeah, they've got that animatronic.
But they've expanded it now. But this was before all of that sort of jazz. So in a way,
I really enjoyed it. I hadn't been before properly until I went there.
It's a wonderful. If most of our audience find out is actually from abroad, which so most people that listen to this won't have been to the National History Museum. But if you come to England, and one museum I would certainly recommend, because most people that come here will probably go to London. Although probably not at the moment under circumstances. When in a few years when things have all cleared up and everything, I highly recommend National History Museum. The best part is that it's down that road where you've got National History Museum, Science Museum, and the V&A Museum, and they're all free. So it's free. It's a wonderfly free day.
And
out.
it's quite. I like walking that. That's one of my favourite underground tunnelly bits to walk.
Yeah, because they make it look pretty cool too. So that's kind of where my dinosaur love originated. And as you're a kid, aren't you? So you think dinosaurs are cool.
On the other spectrum of that, I did not think dinosaurs were cool. Mm-hmm. I did not watch this film for a very long time.
Because I watched it in cinema. I saw it. It was nice.
I remember we had it on rental, probably on VHS rental. My brother loved it. I mean, he was very much into dinosaurs. I didn't. I mean, I was probably, I was quite a few years younger.
Yeah.
But it was the noise for me. I mean, I can't really remember watching it, but when and I don't think I think I maybe watched the beginning, and then I started to pre-release of the dinosaurs, and then I remember having to go outside into the hallway out of the living room, and it was and it was loud, and it was the noise of the T-Rex, and he goes, I can't read it, but the T-Rex sound terrified me as a kid, and it even went to the point where I had this totally irrational fear about going upstairs because I was afraid dinosaurs were upstairs and they would get me. And then when I used to go to bed, this went on for a while, my brother used to pretend he was a dinosaur and make dinosaur sounds outside my door.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And would scare me that way. And then this mix, because it changed, our neighbour she had like a running machine, and you could hear it at night.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I thought that was dinosaur running through the street, which later turned into the BFG trying to peer through my window.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my brain creates interesting
Traumatic
things.
childhood, yeah.
But no, I didn't for a long time until I was probably over 10. I wouldn't touch.
You wouldn't touch this
Jurassic
movie,
World.
yeah. Which means you obviously would have avoided like Lost World and stuff
Yeah.
as well, yeah. But no, I of course I adored it when I was younger, but I mean,
I love it now. Don't get me wrong.
well, that's what I was trying to. I was probably going to jump to that. Is that Jurassic Park is easily one of my top 5 movies of all time. If you like, and that's even in rotation. If you ask me like off the top of my head now, what would be a top 5 is Jurassic Park tends to always be in there somewhere. Because your opinions always change on a daily basis. But I think this is one of the few movies that I've never really got tired of. It's always kind of I've always carried it with me. Seems to get better with multiple watches. Like it's one of those perfect movies that when you watch it when you're a youngster, you take something like, for me it was obviously just the spectacle of the dinosaurs and raptors and all the different breeds they had in it, and that was cool for a kid. It's like, wow,
you liked the not real one best, didn't you?
Yeah, I like the one that I can't remember what it's called in the thing, but the one that spits acid, which is not that apparently was the one invented specifically for the movie. But I mean, it's funny because a lot of things changed paleontology wise since the release of Jurassic Park. Like more discoveries were made because this is before they found out the T-Rex was possibly just a scavenger and not really a predator at all. And then kind of talking about they did actually mention in the original movie about them being more related to birds, but they sort of said about more dinosaurs were more likely to have feathers, which they weren't sort of massively aware of at that point. So there's lots of things have changed really in the series. And the most recent discovery, of course, was the Spinosaurus, which is the big bad in Jurassic Park 3. They found out it's amphibious, which seems like almost accidentally handy for Jurassic Park 3, considering the Spinosaurus does swim. But I don't think they planned that, obviously, to be a thing. Or at least it implies it goes through, it swims anyway. But yeah, so I think it's just great. It ticks all the boxes for a great blockbuster film. I think it's got spectacle. It's I mean, apart from like obviously your trauma, I would have said it's kind of suitable for everybody, kind of. But
I think mine's probably a rarer occurrence.
Yeah.
Compared to others.
But from an adult perspective, the film touches on very deep subjects which are kind of relevant still. About gene editing and what happens when you do put the power of God into people's hands and what they do with it. And there's that whole business thing to it which I love too. About the lawyer talking about how they're going to make as much money as possible, which you won't pick up as a kid, but you really kind of.
And I love the fact that at the beginning he's kind of like he gets in Grant and Sadler and Malcolm to kind of be on his side, and they're meant to be there to promote and say the park's okay, because the lawyers are breathing down their necks. And then I like the quote when they're eating dinner. He's like, "Oh, I brought you here to help me, and the only person who's on my side is the blood-sucking lawyer." And he's just like, "Thank you."
I know. I like that. It's I don't know what it is, but it's one of those. If the film is on, I tend to just watch it. I still don't feel I've really got bored of it. Really,
no.
I usually put it on any time.
And if anything, for me, I mean, it's obviously improved as I've got older, and it's also helped by the fact as getting older of realising just how lovely the Jeff Goldblum is. Mm-hmm. And then Grant, I have a soft spot for Sam Neill.
He was my favourite character when I was a youngster as well.
Yeah.
I always liked him.
And there's even now, because he's quite been quite prolific on Twitter since the lockdown. He's like a crazy kind of fun ball. I can't wait actually in some ways to see what he does in the next movie. Because I just think he's the actor himself, Sam Neill, is seems like such a cool guy. He even has his own winery. That's amazing.
I was shocked to hear that he's in his 70s, isn't it? It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I looked into it because I was interested and I saw that. I was like, oh, this is a lot older. Not a lot older, but he's quite a bit older than the others. There's almost 20 years between him and Ellie.
Yeah.
So when you think they were meant to be a couple, she was only about 19, 20 when... No, I think she's a bit older. I think she was 25? I can't quite remember now.
Yeah.
But she was in her 20s, and he was like nearly 40 when they filmed the first film. Which is quite interesting. But you wouldn't have known because he's still quite an attractive man.
Yeah.
And obviously, we forget this is got Samuel Jackson in as well.
Oh yeah, I
early
kind of
Samuel
keep forgetting that
because he's such a kind of backgroundish.
He is, but
typical character.
I have to say, I really like his. I don't know if it's actually, I don't know if it's been edited or something, but I love his clever ability to have a cigarette in his mouth and talk at the same time. But I don't know if that's been post edited.
He's like,
especially when he's like, when he's like, access, and the butt is just burning right up to his lip, and it's pretty cool. I like that effect.
That I watched. I don't know if you were with us or not, but I watched this on telly not relatively long ago, and they cut that scene now where he's in Ellie goes in to follow him after the arm drops down.
That's cut from most things. I recognise that from again when I was younger when it came to TV. It's surprising, the cut stuff. It still surprises me today what does get cut still, because it's really. But that might be the only copy they have in TV studios still. It's possible, like the no severed arm edition of Jurassic Park.
But it's a bit like Muppets Christmas Carol, which will always be under my skin.
That was just stupid, yeah.
But in terms of cutting, those that know, Muppets Christmas Carol is a wonderful Christmas film. And there's a beautiful song in there that they cut, and it makes the whole journey seem not as powerful.
I don't really understand censorship. I never really did, even back in the day, understand censorship much. I think it's that's what warning labels are for in the first place. Like that's when you first watch a movie, it says this film features these things. So, but why cut stuff from it? I mean, there was obviously that infamous thing as well. Going off on a tangent, do you remember Spider-Man, the very first one, the Raimi edition, with what's his name? The first
Tobey
one.
Maguire.
That's it, Tobey Maguire, where they did that. That's before we had the 12A rating in this country. We had a 12 rating, and I think that's where it's rated. But then there's some massive uproar, and then people. It's what basically led to them forming the 12A rating, where you can go see the movie so long as you went with an adult. And I always thought that's just silly, really. Just to make it PG and just oh well. Anyway, that's a completely different subject in itself, really. But that was PG, wasn't it? I'm pretty certain Jurassic Park was PG when it was at the cinema because I was able to see it. So some scenes may not be suitable. Parental guidance is what that stands for in the UK, and that's that. The BBFC, which is the British Board of Film Classification, is still going as well. So that's still our go-to rating system. So that, Jurassic. There's not really this. Well, what more could you say about Jurassic? It's a freaking classic.
And what was it? Richard Armitage's first name.
Richard Attenborough. Yeah.
Brother
of famous David Attenborough, which is
who's here. I mean, he's actually passed away quite a while ago now. David Attenborough recently celebrated a birthday. Actually,
did he?
I can't remember
he's in his 90s.
Yeah,
now.
I think he's like 90. I feel like it was 96, 97.
He's getting on. Because he was old when I was young. That's which is the weird thing. So love the guy though. He's great. But Jurassic Park. So and then of course with things being as successful as are. And obviously, we forgot to mention, of course, Jurassic Park is based off a famous book by Michael Crichton as well. Very good book as well. Highly recommend reading it as well because it is quite different from it follows similar beats, but there are things that are notably changed in the book compared to the movie. And Michael Crichton did write a sequel, which I think it was The Lost World Jurassic Park, whereas the movie was called Jurassic Park: The Lost World. So in that weird order. So that was written first, and then obviously, of course, they'll make a movie. It makes sense, doesn't it? They'll do a film out of it. In fact, I remember when my dad brought the book to read, and they actually had the film logo on the book, like years before the film actually came out. So there must have been some sort of agreement that they're happy for him to use that. And then so he lost. I know, of course, I was still relatively. I was a bit older at this point, so I think it was a few years before that came out. It wasn't like straight away. And excited as anything to go see that one. What appealed to me most about, I'm guessing you didn't see this at the cinema.
Do you know what I've just noticed? And this is a really weird tangent, but if you hold a peg together,
right,
it looks a little bit like the flying one's head.
Mosquito?
No, the
like
flying dragon. Flying dinosaur.
Oh, the pterodactyl.
Yeah, that's his eye, and that's his head, like bones at the back, and his beak.
Okay. Well, I'll see if I can find a picture of that to put on the thumbnail.
Sorry, random.
In fact, hold on. I'll take a picture with my phone, and then that's what we'll put as the.
It's not got a great background though. You do it on the grid.
Oh dear.
So See if anyone else can see it. If people can let us know if they also see the pterodactyl in a clothes peg.
So did you see The Lost World at the cinema?
No.
You probably didn't. I'm guessing. I did.
I don't think I saw anything at the cinema until
I saw all of them,
Jurassic
apart
World.
from, yeah, I did. So that means I didn't see the most recent
No.
one at the cinema, but I saw the first 3 at the cinema.
I can't even remember when I saw The Lost World. I don't think I saw a lot of them until I was in my teens, at least.
Yeah.
For the same reason that I didn't. Not that I was scared by that point. I just wasn't really very interested. I think I eventually went back and watched them. I mean, I always forget because I always remember this like it's 2 movies because the first half with
the island,
and then the second half in LA.
Yeah.
So I always think about it. And I remember the bit like with the 8 ball, which I quite like, and then I forget, and then I'm like, oh yeah, what's it? And then I remember that it's all part of the same movie. For some reason, I always think it's 2 separate movies when it's not. But it's got quite a different, little bit in it. I always quote the "keep out of the long grass." That's quite a classic.
There's probably more quotable bits from the second one actually, like like memes and stuff like that. Like the one where snake, and he goes in the waterfall and he goes out and gets eaten by the T-Rex. I mean, I when I was younger, I found the prospect of The Lost World very exciting because the whole they heavily advertised it as the there's no walls anymore, there's no cages.
Yeah.
It's this wild environment. So it seemed, and I was this is when I was starting to become quite fond of horror as well already. So this prospect of this was quite exciting for a young boy like myself. This is also when I was starting to get more into sort of video games as well. I had the video game of The Lost World, where in the very first level of that game on the PlayStation, you play as a compy, it's like a little platformer. Game's probably not aged very well. But
I played the game where you're the people because I remember being his daughter.
There's different games. There's more than.
I don't remember which one that was.
There's a Jurassic. If you want to go for video games, there is a Jurassic Park video game that's released on like everything. There's a PC one. There's a Mega Drive one. There's a Super Nintendo one. And then Lost World they had, and I think there was another Mega Drive title for Lost World, but there was the PlayStation one. But there was other titles released. Yeah. I think there was a light gun shooter as well that was released too.
I don't remember what one it was, but I remember I did play it. I kept dying, but I did play it a few times. And you could be different characters, and I was often the daughter.
They had this like fighting game for the I think it was like Jurassic Park Warpath or something, which is the dinosaurs fighting each other. I never had that one, but for me, my favourite, it's nothing to do with Jurassic Park at all, but my perfect video game for the PlayStation, the original PlayStation, was Dino Crisis, which is 1 and 2. I particularly loved 2 because it was one of my favourite series, Resident Evil, mishmashed with dinosaurs, and you can't get any better. And why on earth they haven't remade that series, I don't know, because I think it's just brilliant. What's better than having a survival horror game with dinosaurs? But that's that, though. Yeah. Anyway, going back to, The Lost World, it is... So it's a more of a, because this was funny. We had this conversation. The first thing I asked you is when Jeff Goldblum reappears. I said, well, which is he hotter in this movie, or is he hotter in the original? Because I quite like his grizzled look in this one. He's cleaner in the first film. He's more
I prefer him in the first one.
Yeah,
I think he's the longer hair, slightly longer hair, and he kind of has that more tousled look to him. The second one's fine, but I think I prefer him in the first one.
I love his character in the second one because he still does the kind of the comic reliefy, but it almost feels like he's kind of very affected by the events of the first movie, and he's very like, I love that there's not really any changing his mind of everything. He's very anti everything, like Jurassic Park and anti dinosaurs.
Considering in a way he didn't have, it was awful what happened to him. He almost got eaten by T-Rex, but he then spent the rest of the time in a bunker. Yeah. And, he didn't really have like Grant and the kids did, where they had to literally run. His adventure's very different. Whereas this is what is more like Grant and the kids had running through dinosaurs. My personal always makes me sad. Always makes me so sad. When they have the baby, the T-Rexes come because they've took the baby dinosaur, and they push their hut thing overboard, and their friend comes to help them.
Yeah, and he's trying to reverse.
Yeah, and they eat them, and he's still reversing, even when the T-Rexes are like flying bits off his car, trying to eat him, and he's down like this in the car. He still goes to reverse to save his friends, and I was like, that always gets my poor heart, especially when he gets eaten and the thing falls down anyway, and they're fine, and you're like, if he just let it go. I mean, I don't know what he could have done. If he maybe went round the tree and stood still, he'd be fine. But the fact that he was trying as hard as he could to, he went through all of that with like the rain was falling and he had to get the rope and all of that. And I like the funny bit though when he's like, "Oh, what can I do? Is I need rope? Is there anything else?" Yeah. And they're like a burger,
burgers,
fries. And that's quite a fun sort of scene. And then he gets eaten by the dinosaurs. That always makes me sad. I think of the people that get eaten because there's always one, isn't there? In each of the film. There's always one sort of character that's more focused on that gets gobbled, and he makes me sad.
Quite liked. I really like the hunter character in Lost World.
Pete Postlethwaite.
He's passed away now as well. Because he's again. This is one of those movies that you view it. I viewed it very differently when I was younger compared to when I was older. In fact, when I was younger, I think I kind of liked the LA bit where the T-Rex runs amok in LA. But when I got older, I kind of realised why everyone disliked that part. Because it is a bit sort of out of place compared to the tone of the first part of the film.
I think that's why I always think it's two separate films as well.
Yeah, and they'd repeat this mistake later with the fifth movie, but we'll get to that. But I liked his sort of he's basically a hunter, pure and simple.
Yeah.
And his drive is that he wants to hunt the biggest game, essentially, which is the T-Rex. And he calls it a buck or something, doesn't he? He says, "I want the buck" or something. I don't know, something like that. And
he wants the male, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he just wanted the thrill of conquering.
Because he does make a quote about the
there's
the biggest predator but he said something about the biggest predator on the planet, and he says, "And we're the second, and I need to take it down." Because it's something along those lines. It's like it's not a fact of anything. He just needs to show that he can take down something that could take him down.
My favourite part though about his development is like when he achieves his goal, that it almost like it felt for nothing for him. There's this sort of part of him that was just
well, especially since his friend
because his friend was
dies, doesn't he? He gets got by the raptors. And he sort of because the InGen man is sort of like, "Oh, you've got what you wanted."
Your trophy,
and he's like, whatever his name is,
and he
didn't
care.
make it. And he sort of and he just goes, doesn't he? It's kind of just leaves.
That's it.
He's quite lucky, really, compared to some. And I always forget that Vince Vaughn's in this because it's quite a different role
he's
for
very
Vince
tolerable
Vaughn.
version of Vince Vaughn. I don't generally like Vince Vaughn. I find his humour quite grating sometimes. It's one of those like one again. It's like a typecast character. He has a one type of humour, which I don't know how you describe it, but sort of sarcastic. I think tends to be what his tone tends to be with some of his, but I didn't mind him in this movie at all. But he does do the funnies, but it's not as Vince Vaughn. But
because he does that bit of like or thingy whatever his name is, the Richard Attenborough's character. What's he called?
Well, Hammond. He
said Hammond had a backup, and he's like, "What's that?" Me. And it comes with his thing. Which is quite funny, which in the end results in the whole thing happening anyway. And obviously Julianne Moore is in this as well. I always think it's quite funny that she was silly and didn't take her like she's meant to be clever, and she got the baby. They followed for the baby. Yet she doesn't think about the fact that the blood's on her top and like spreads it following them so that the T-Rexes find them because they're obviously following the baby's smell. She's still very clever then. But I do quite like the scene, like you're saying with the hunter, when he asks her if she's okay, which is quite a...
Well, it shows a human.
Which is quite a rare sort of thing. I mean, in some ways they used it as a side play for Vince Vaughn to change out the barrels, but still. So I quite enjoy Jurassic World too. I always like the bit in LA when... the little boy.
When
the parents are fighting and they're just like, no, you should have the light. And then it's like, it's a dinosaur in my backyard.
It's not terrible, but the end part, I just think it feels a bit out of place.
I still, and we said about this to this day, don't understand how that T-Rex killed everybody on the boat.
Yeah, it's just that's just
because nothing's destroyed. The people are dead inside the cockpit bit. Cabin, yet somehow the T-Rex fit his tiny little hands and pulled them out and then pushed them back in. How to do that? And then walks and goes back into the underground bit to let someone try and put him back in. Bleh. I don't understand. It would have made more sense if they had another animal
Like raptors or
yeah,
something. Yeah,
maybe not a raptor because that would be quite hard. But some other animal was on there that would go in, like I don't know, the compies or something.
Yeah.
Was in with it. A smaller animal that could go in and eat them, and then it got too close to the T-Rex. The T-Rex ate them. And then that could explain why. But they didn't do that.
Yeah.
I was thinking it's funny when it like pops its head, or she's waiting and to get it, and then it was like, what if it hadn't popped its head up and was just like,
just
my baby nose is having its first feed. Oh yeah, baby, so good. It's funny. So yeah, that was. Do you have any other thoughts on the second one?
No, well, no, I don't mind it. It tends to be one that's not particularly liked by most people, but I think some people even say the series never really got any better since the first one. But I think it's entertaining. It's just another entertaining dinosaur movie. Basically, It's got all the hijinks and big spectacles, and it's got some heart to it in places. It's I just think the LA bit at the end is just a bit sort of tacked on, really, more than anything. It feels a bit like kind of like almost like King Kong at the end, really, in a sense. But that's a story for another day. But anyway, that's taking us up to our time. So we'll do the rest of the movies in a part 2, I think, or part 3, depending on how long we babble about them for.
As you can see, we can babble up. Probably especially me. I just babbled a bit too long about that one for a while. But that works out quite well though, because it's like almost 2 and 2-ish. So yeah, any final thoughts before we sign off for today?
No, I want to look up what video games I've got of Jurassic Park. I'm pretty sure I've got a cartridge of the Mega Drive game, and I've definitely got the PlayStation 1 game still. So I'll look that up for tomorrow.
Excellent. Well, as usual, folkies, please do stay alert. Take care, stay safe, and we will catch you up all again soon. Thanks for listening. Bye.